Welcome to MRII's Insights and Innovators podcast, where we talk to top market research professionals to get their inside stories about innovative and enduring best practices. Today's episode is sponsored by Suzy. Suzy is the real-time market research platform. Suzy's audience-powered tools enable research from start to finish, helping enterprises make more intelligent decisions. Now, here's your host for today's episode.
I'm John Lass, president of Sports and Leisure Research Group and past president of the Insights Association and MRII. In this episode, we're going to dive deeply into current and future definitions of leadership with the CEO of the organization that recognizes and promotes those visionaries transforming the insights profession. Crispin Beale leads Insight250, and today we're going to look at those qualities that spur innovation and achievement in our industry, as well as what this portends for the future of insights. Crispin, it's great to have you on Insights and Innovators.
John, I'm delighted to be with you today. Thank you for inviting me.
So let's start for those who aren't necessarily as familiar with Insights250. Tell us a little bit about its origins, the motivations behind the concept, and how it's kind of scaled.
Yeah, sure, John. Well, look, Insight250 celebrates and connects and champions leaders and innovators all around the world. And we thought that was really, really important because myself and a couple of people were looking around and saying, well, hey, the advertising industry have Cannes and other sectors have their big award schemes, but there didn't really seem to be a big way of recognizing globally the innovators and leaders in the research space. And we thought that was wrong. You know, we live in a troubled world where there's environmental disasters, where there's one crisis after another, where there's even wars going on. And sometimes it's so hard to tell the difference between facts and fiction and identify fake news. And we just said, well, hey, this is an amazing profession. We're almost like the guardians of the truth, if you like. And we're there to try and make sure that decisions are based on hard evidence, on facts, and never in the history of mankind has, I think, that been more important than today. And we thought, well, hey, we should be celebrating and recognizing the leaders and innovators in this space. And that's how we started the awards. And when we did it, we thought, well, will anyone notice? Will anyone care? How will it work? And that first week of the first year's launch, we had 20 million impressions of those initial winners. And that's when we thought, we're really onto something here. This could be big. This is important. There's a desperate unmet need that we're fulfilling. And that's when we partnered with SMR and lots of the other professional bodies to try and create the really robust and global scheme that we have today.
You know, I love your use of the term guardians of the truth. I think I may have referenced this on a prior podcast, but sometimes when people ask me, you know, what is it about insights and research that you love? I said, well, I'm in search of the truth, because today it's so hard to find what that really is, given so many of the agendas that are out there. But I want to get back to the awards themselves, and I'd love for you to shed some light on the process by which somebody gets named to the list. How does somebody become initially considered, and what are you looking for in selecting those who ultimately receive recognition?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. And well, look, anyone can be nominated, or they can nominate themselves as well. We open up on the website, insight250.com, a nomination form, which is a really simple, easy form that allows people to enter why they feel they should be considered. And we're really looking for people that are innovating and leading in their field. And the criteria and the things the judges look at are on the website. You can see them there as well. But we try and make it as inclusive as possible. So also the nomination form is in multiple languages, and we can judge in multiple languages to make sure that whether someone's in China or India or France or the US, they have equal chances of being included.
As it's kind of built over time, and certainly with that great virality that you demonstrated right out of the chute, has it become competitive? Are there any interesting stories out there about some aggressive campaigning? Obviously, we don't want to incriminate anyone.
There have been. I did have the chairman of one fairly well-known market research agency contact me and say, hey, why am I not on this list? I need to be on this list. Who do I pay? I want to get on this list. And it's like, well, firstly, I'm not a judge. I'm not a judge. So you're talking to the wrong person. But we do have our 51 independent judges and quite a robust system of trying to make sure that people can't game it or vet it. And every single person that goes onto that list not only has been through the judging process, a short listing with SMR reps that I can come on to, and then through the judges themselves, but also we check out their profile on LinkedIn and other social marketing sort of tools and platforms, depending on where they are in the world. Not everyone uses LinkedIn, to try and make sure it's as robust a selection as possible.
So I would surmise that just as there's aggressive campaigning, there may be some skeptics out there who question the objectivity of the process, or the political nature of it. How have you gone about diffusing that and differentiating this from some of the other accolades that are in the industry?
Yeah, we've been very mindful of that, and that's why in the second year we partnered with SMR and have done so ever since, because that allows us to utilize their network of more than 100 local country reps. And then those reps help us with the shortlisting because they know their local markets better than anyone. So they can see whether there are people on that list that perhaps shouldn't be on there because perhaps their achievements aren't as relevant, or indeed if there are people missing sometimes, and there can be other recommendations and we can look to see if people are included. But then we go to our 51 completely independent judges, and those judges come from all around the world and from all sectors. So you've got a really robust knowledge of the market research and insight and data spaces, where you've got judges such as the CEO of the Insights Association, Melanie Courtright, and the CEO of the MRS, the Market Research Society, and the president of the MRC. And then we've got Ed Keller, the exec director of MRII as well. So that he's pretty robust. And the president of the CMRA out in China, and the director general of the MRSI in India. So lots of the big global associations and professional bodies involved in helping us judge those final 250 winners. But also we've got academics, people like Professor Paul Baines, and CEOs of big agencies, Ben Page, the global CEO of Ipsos, and representatives of Kantar, Savanta, Ledger. But then most importantly as well, we've got lots and lots of clients involved on the judging panel. So clients such as Coke, Pepsi, Nestle, Philip Morris, Standard Bank Group, Netflix, Heineken, Samsung, ANZ Bank. So a real mix. And then all of that chaired by industry legend, if you like, Kristen Luck, who founded Wire and's been a president of SMR, and co-chairs with Mark Langsfield, the CEO of MTAP, who helped sponsor the whole thing. So we have this really robust system, and we also don't put any quotas in. We don't say, oh, we've got to have X and we've got to have Y. We loosely try and target broadly in line with the market sizes in each region, as defined by SMR's Global Market Research Report. But we let this fall out, and we try and recognize the best candidates. But then also make sure that there are certain people, you know, the likes of Ben Pages or Sir Martin Sorrell or others, who would almost be on any winners list. But where we've had people that have won multiple times, 3 times or more, we tend to put them to a public vote. So the public got involved. And of those, we moved the majority into our legends category. Right. And once people have been voted by the industry, by the public as a legend, they're no longer eligible to be on the annual list, which gives us the opportunity to get more people involved from more developing markets. So this year on the 2024 winners, we had, I think, entries from 80 countries, right, and we ended up with winners from 56 countries. So some of these people are doing inspiring and fantastic things in markets that normally don't get any coverage or people aren't aware of. And I think that's really important, to make these awards as diverse and inclusive as possible. So sorry, a long answer to that, but we're passionate about making
sure obviously it's important
to
build that legitimacy and that breadth of assessment. But obviously I want to go beyond that. And you've had such a great front row seat, if you will, to observe and identify those who really are creating transformative change in the profession. What are you seeing now in terms of the most common qualities that you feel define leadership in today's research industry, and how's that evolved over the past decade or so?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think if you look at the core tenets of leadership and things, as you know, you'd find it defined in a Boston Consulting Group textbook or something else. We see lots of those themes come through. So lots of these leaders have a great vision. They can talk about the future and they can communicate it really effectively and inspiringly to others. So a sense of vision is critical, and we see that in many of our winners. Empathy as well is becoming more important as people want to be understood and they want to see the caring, and leaders that actually think about the needs and emotions of their team members and build that trust is important. Decisiveness, I would say, is one of the other key qualities, and they have to be able to make timely decisions that are really well considered, but they have to make a decision. You can't be wishy-washy on that. And then the great leaders that we see as well have to be, have the integrity and have the authenticity, and demonstrate honesty and the ethics, and I think the consistency, and be a real strong example for others to follow. And the last one, if I was picking 5 of the key qualities that we see throughout the 4 years that we've been running the awards, is being flexible and being able to adapt, because the world is changing faster than ever before. And the great leaders and innovators have to be able to navigate that and pivot where necessary, where things change. You have to do that. So I think those are the key 5 tenets across the 5 years, a vision, empathy, decisiveness, integrity, and flexibility. But more and more, when you talk about what's changing and how it's evolving, we see a greater request for authenticity. It can't be a textbook Boston Consulting or McKinsey manager. People have to be real. They have to be their own
Yeah,
people. And we
pragmatic
see,
side.
yeah, exactly. And we see a rise of things, as well as, I mentioned being inspiring, but we see people wanting leaders that show humor and good grace, and then other tenets, about being bold and being brave to make decisive things. And we've actually, on the Insight250 website, we've got interviews with some of the leaders, and there are a couple of weird and wonderful ones where we talk lots about some of their passion for sampling and techniques. But we've talked about leadership through the lens of comedy, and we've talked about being bold and brave. And some of our leaders have actually spoken about these topics, and have been some of the best received articles and pieces we've had. And I think it shows how the standard, if you like, hygiene factors you need in a leader are still there, but people are wanting more. They're wanting differentiation. They're wanting this authenticity, and they're wanting humor or comedy, or the things that make it fun for to follow that leader as well.
Where does it go? I mean, there's been evolution. You said that there's certain basic foundations that I think have been constants throughout time. But as we think about where the industry is heading, do you see some of these critical success factors that will define the leaders of the next generation to be somewhat different from what we have today?
I think that's a great question. I think the only thing I would add to the things I've mentioned that hasn't come through as much in our leaders so far, it has in some of them, but a smaller cohort, is this need to understand and embrace technology. And I'm a great believer in that things like AI won't steal people's jobs, but people that understand AI might steal your jobs. So you need to understand the pros and cons of using synthetic data, or how you can use AI to incrementally change what you're doing and use it to actually help execute. Maybe AI is not necessarily going to define your strategy and do away with that, but it can help you execute on it, and it can help you do lots of the things that you've been doing much faster, so that you can spend more time on the strategies or the storytelling. And I think we're going to see more of a rise of leaders who understand and embrace those technologies, which have been something that we've always talked about as a sector. We've always embraced and grabbed big data and got very excited about it, but maybe, and AI or whatever the latest trend is, but we need people that really understand when to use these things and when not to use them.
So I want to wrap up by listing we talked about pragmatism, which is certainly a skill that I think and agree has become much more important in delivering the stories and the insights that come from what we all do as a profession today. Let's kind of apply that, if we will, to those who may be earlier in their careers, who are listening to us. Obviously, not everybody aspires to lead a research organization or a department. But what would be some of the perspectives that you would have for those in the earlier stages of their career to gain actualization and success as either part of a team or as a leader of a team in the future?
Yeah, that's another great question. And look, I think for the next generation coming in, it's really important that they hone the essential skills for a job in market research. So things like the analytical thinking, interpreting and analyzing data to uncover insights and trends. That's always going to be crucial. Communication, already touched on, is fundamental. If you can have the best insights in the world, but if you can't communicate them and tell that story compellingly, it's not going to help. So it's really important that our next generation of researchers develop those storytelling skills. They have to keep, though, the attention to detail. Robustness and quality and integrity and understanding the provenance of the data and the insights that we have is key. And that hunger to problem solve and know what's going on is important as well. And again, the technical proficiency is fundamental. They have to be familiar with the different tools and understand what it is they're looking at and what they can and can't do with it. But all of those things to me are almost hygiene factors. And I would say my advice to youngsters or new people entering the profession is to really care about what you do, really throw yourself into it and work in roles and with people where you have fun. Because if you enjoy what you're doing, if it becomes a passion for you, I think then you've got the best chance of success.
Absolutely. It's like that old adage, do what you love and success will follow. That's kind of what led me down the path that I've been in, and research and insights and truth, as we talked about it on the front end, is just the byproduct of it. Crispin, I thank you so much for joining us on Insights and Innovators.
Thanks for joining MRII's Insights and Innovators podcast. Be sure to subscribe and listen to all of our podcast episodes, and visit us at mrii.org for more insights for market research professionals.